Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to show you the easiest way to get started with introducing a dashboard in your projects that use OpenTelemetry to handle logs, metrics, traces, spans, and so on. And the funny thing is, it was an accident, and you're gonna see what I mean, but this is not just for .NET and C#. I know this is a C# and .NET channel, but what you're going to see in this video can be used on anything that uses OpenTelemetry, Java, Go, Python, no matter what it is, as long as you're using OpenTelemetry, you can use this. And it is of my opinion that if you're getting started, this is the best thing you can possibly use. And even if you're using something for local development, this thing might be the best thing to replace it with. If you like a lot of content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. For more training, check out my courses on dometrain.com. Okay, so let me show you what I have here. I have a .NET API, C# API. The fact that it is a C# project doesn't matter. All that matters is that this project is configured to use OpenTelemetry. So as you can see here, all of my logging is going through OpenTelemetry, and I'm including scopes and formatted messages so I can have a nice structured log environment set up with scopes for my logs. Then I have my OpenTelemetry method with my metrics, and I'm adding some runtime metrics, so ASP.NET Core hosting, because this is an API, of course. Server.kestrel, which is the server we're using to expose HTTP, then system.net.http, and then weather API, which is this API I'm showing you over here. Then tracing, we have an always on sampler, which of course should be inactive for production, but for development, it makes it very, very easy to see what's going on in my application. Then I have instrumentation in things like ASP.NET Core, gRPC client, and HTTP client, the thing that makes HTTP requests. Then I have my OpenTelemetry logging options configured, so use OTLP exporter for both metrics, logs, and the tracer. And then I have some health checks to see if my application is healthy. And then I have some resilience for my HTTP client and instrumentation for that. And then I also add the metrics call over here because I introduced my own custom metrics on top of the built-in metrics. So if I go into weather metrics, as you can see, I'm not only collecting API level metrics in general for HTTP and so on, but also how many times I've requested the weather from this API and how long in milliseconds these requests last, because we're imitating some sort of API call to a third-party service, and we need to have some duration. And as you can see, I have my counter and I'm adding, and I'm using some scopes over here to create a histogram and so on. I've talked about this in a previous video. Here I'm only going to focus on the dashboard primarily, but I want to show you that I have just a simple OpenTelemetry setup, and that's it, just a single endpoint and nothing else. And if I go ahead and I just quickly run this API, it's using Swagger, so we should see a UI to make a call to this API. Then as you can see over here, sorry, you're blind now, I'm gonna go ahead and try it out, and I'm going to get the weather back, and I can keep calling it, and I'm gonna get many weathers. But currently, these metrics are not being exported anywhere. They exist, and my application is running and everything is good, but I can't really visualize anything about my application. But as long as I'm using OpenTelemetry, which is an agreed standard for every language and every framework, I can introduce a dashboard. Now, it is very, very common that you're gonna use something like Grafana with Prometheus, or Jaeger, or some third-party service, or Datadog, or whatever. Those things not only are expensive if it's a SaaS product, but also they're very, very hard to get running. If you have to run Grafana and Prometheus, it is so complicated if you just want to have a dashboard for your little API to see exactly what's going on. And that's exactly what I want to focus in this video. Yeah, in big projects, all that work might make sense. But what if I just have a single application and I want to see what's going on in that application in a very nice way? Well, it's actually extremely simple. Let me show you. Now, before I move on, I'd like to let you know we just launched a brand new course on Dometrain called Deep Dive in Domain-Driven Design. And that course is a follow-up to the existing Getting Started with Domain-Driven Design by Amikai Mantenband. In this second course, Amikai goes beyond what he built in the first course, and we build a more entire and complete system using DDD. DDD is one of the most popular ways to build software, especially in .NET, and it is a must for anyone who wants to learn how to use DDD. Now, to celebrate the launch, the first 200 of you can use discount code DDD20 to get 20% off on the deep dive course. These do go fast, so do not miss this opportunity to invest in your future. Now back to the video. Okay, so why did I say in the beginning of this video that the solution was an accident? Well, it's because it has to do with a component of .NET Aspire. For those of you who don't know, .NET Aspire is the cloud native stack for .NET applications. And by the way, it is still in preview, so it's still being worked on. But as part of that stack, we got a dashboard. And the interesting thing about this dashboard is that it's actually really good. If you compare it to what's in the market, nothing comes close to the simplicity of setup if you want to have metrics, logging, some graphs, and also traces and spans. However, the problem we had is it was kind of attached to the .NET Aspire stack. What if I just want to run the dashboard? Well, you can, because now it can be run as a standalone dashboard and you can use it with any application, no matter what the app is written into. I'm not going to have any reference to the dashboard in my application. All I have is the OpenTelemetry stuff, and that is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to say docker run. I'm going to specify the port for the dashboard and then the port for the exporter. And then I'm going to use the Aspire dashboard image and I'm going to use latest preview 6, which just released. And then that's it. I'm going to say go ahead and run it. My dashboard is now running. You can see it over here. And I can access it by going to that URL. Now, as you can see over here, the port is 18888. So here we go. I have the dashboard. Since Aspire Preview 5, you have to use a token to log in. That's very easy to grab. We can go to the Docker image. We can go to the console and we can get it over here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy that and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to say login. And now we are logged in. And that's the dashboard you get out of the box. However, if I just go ahead and I run my API and go back to calling it, as you can see over here, I'm gonna try some requests out. You're going to see immediately that I have both the logs of my application, as you can see over here, with levels. So information logs, warning logs, as you can see, we have one, error logs, if we had any, or critical. So you can have filtering, you can filter by this, so you can say the message contains, and maybe we have, I don't know, weather. So weather forecasts requests, I guess all of them kind of have it in some capacity, but we have filtering. You can apply filters. You can reset them. I can go to traces and I can see all of my requests and I can see different durations. So I can scroll here. I can select services. If I have many, I go ahead and I can click this. If I had more things here, I would be able to see different spans within the trace. I'm able to see information about the trace, as you can see over here. So if I just make this bigger, I can scroll here, I can see start time, execution, I can see endpoints, I can see span IDs, I can see everything I would ever need in here, plus metrics. So if I go here, what I can see is active connection requests. Maybe make this a bit smaller. I can see request durations, so you can see how long those took with percentiles as well. And I can go ahead and see the requests I made. So for example, the durations of the requests I made or how many I made. And I can go back here and I can say bam, 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 bam. And if I go back, I should see eventually a bit of a spike here. Now this can take some time based on how the exporter is working, but all that is customizable in your application. How would you customize it? And as you can see, it just came here. How would you customize it in a .NET application? Well, you can pass those customizations either as app settings values or as environment variables, which tends to be fairly common as well. So I'm gonna go here in the launch settings.json and I have the option to pass environment variables. And by the way, the reason why this connection works without me configuring anything, where you can see everything immediately in the dashboard by default, is because those are the endpoints that the OLTP configuration will default into, but you can override everything here. So what I'm going to say here is, what if I want to use another endpoint to export my data? Well, all you have to do is say OTL exporter OTLP endpoint and pass it down here. That's where it's running, because I can see that over here. That's the publicly exposed endpoint. And then I can also specify other things if I want. For example, how often the metrics export is happening. So I'm going to say every second. Don't do that. It's extremely short, but it makes for a great demo if I use that. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and say run this. So application is running, dashboard is running, and I'm going to go here and say execute this many times. And you can see it immediately without having to wait, because every second now we're getting those metrics in. Bam, bam, bam. Keeps increasing. You can see duration as well. You can see multiple percentiles, 99, 90, 50. You can see garbage collection. You can see GC allocations. You can see how much memory. You can see everything in this particular example because my .NET application by default will export all that without me having to ask anything. And I can see time in queue, request duration. I can see everything in these dashboards easily by default. If you use any language that uses OpenTelemetry, you will be able to get that, and all you have to do is just run the Docker image of the dashboard and you're good to go. There is nothing else. Add it in your Docker Compose and just have it as a development or integration or staging. It won't really store anything, which is a bit of a shortcoming of it. But if you want to get started with it or more of an ad hoc setup, this is the perfect way to get into OpenTelemetry and understand what's a metric, what's a span, how to visualize it, what is what. I think it's perfect. I've done Grafana, I've done Prometheus, I've done Datadog. Yes, I was working in a very rich startup back in the day, and I can tell you that I wish I had something like this back in the day, and finally now we have it. But now I want from you, what do you think about this? And if you give it a go as a non.NET or C# person, let me know in the comments down below. Well, that's all I had for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep coding.